Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
Should we start with your permission, Mohansa?
Bismillah.
Thank you. Brother Zahir, if you can please recite Surah Al-Fajr, which is also known as Surah Husyni. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
صلوات على محمد وصلى. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والفجر وليال عشر والشفع والوتر والليل إذا يسر. هل في ذلك قسم لذي حجر ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بعاد. إرم ذات العماد التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد. وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد. فصب عليهم ربك سوط عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد. فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن. وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن. كلا تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون وتأكلون التراث أكلا لما وتحبون المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم
صل على
وزن وبارك على
رسول
الله وآله الأطهار على رسول الله وآله الأطهار صلوات على محمد
وآل محمد أحسن أحسن. We are fortunate to have Brother Zahir. He's one of the students at Abrar Darul Quran, and fortunately, his ustad is also a Maulana, a Shaykh from home, who is a Qari and a Hafiz and a teacher of the Tajweed of Quran. So, mashallah, may Allah kabul bil ahsan.
Thank you. Jazakallah.
Jazakumullah khair. Now, I will invite our Ustad Akbari, who has also joined us. Salam Ustad Akbari. Salam Bashin. And I'll request him to please recite, Alhamdulillah, Ma'amuna, to please recite a condolence towards the Sayyid al-Shuhada, Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, and his companions. Bismillah, bifarmi.
Assalamu alaikum.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم اشک از آب بریزی شام عزاست امشب نام حسین و عباس مشکل گشاست امشب باب الحوائج عباس حاجت دنده ماست دارنده حوائج حاجت رواست امشب ای دیده گریه ها کن ای دل تو ناله ها کن با سوز دل دعا کن وقت دعاست امشب ای که دلت شکسته غم بر دلت نشسته ای دردمند خسته دردت دواست امشب باب الحوائج ما یا حضرت ابوالفضل آن دل که از تو دور است دور از خداست امشب مرزای مسلمین را مد نظر بگیر تا این محفل از وجودش دار و شفاست امشب دلها همه پریشان هر دیده گشته گریان هر گوشه ای از این خواب چون کربلاست امشب خدای قهار در ماتم علمدار جن و ملک عزادار شامل عزاست امشب شامل عزاست امشب زینب علیه زینب سلام الله علیها یه وقت دیدم رنگ صورت حسین پرید بیبی میگه یک وقت دیدم رنگ صورت امام حسین پریده یه نگاه طرف خیمه یه نگاه طرف میدان با عجله آمد کنار بدن برادر صدا زد عباس حسن تو مرا سید و سرور خواندی چه شد این بار برادر خواندی صدا زد حسین من مادرت فاطمه آمد به سرم او مرا خواند و صدا زد به سرم او مرا خواند و صدا زد به سرم یا رب الحسین اشف صدر الحسین به ظهور الحجه صلوات
أحسنتم أحسنتم.
احسنتم. خیلی متشکر از زحمت شما، عبادت شما قبول باشه انشاءالله. There's a couple of couplets in the honor of Hazrat Ali Akbar and Hazrat Ali Asghar alayhi salam. چاندنی راتوں میں کہتے تھے مدینے کے جاؤ
میدان کی طرف چلنے لگے کسی کے ساتھ ایسا نہیں کیا لیکن دیکھنے والی آنکھوں نے یہ دیکھا.
Sorry for the interruption there. چاندنی راتوں میں کہتے تھے مدینے کے جواں چاند کیا دیکھیں علی اکبر کی صورت دیکھ کر روئیں گے دشمن عزا اپنی قسمت کو سروش حشر میں ان آنسوؤں کی قدر و قیمت دیکھ کر. اور فرماتے ہیں نکلے خدا کے گھر سے یہ کہتے ہوئے حسین نکلے خدا کے گھر سے یہ کہتے ہوئے حسین تو سرپرست ہے تو میرا سر بھی کچھ نہیں اب تو تبسم علی اصغر کے ذکر میں شیر خدا کی تیغ دو پیکر بھی کچھ نہیں. اور محمد و آل محمد صلی اللہ محمد و آل محمد. I invite the reciters in the first session to please extend their condolences towards Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, brother Suhail Ali, and brother Shujaat Bukhari.
السلام علیکم مومنین.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
شب عاشور ہے and this is a source in line of the faryad of Bibi Zainab salamullahi alayhi. So something like this. اے رات نہ ڈھلنا کہ اجڑ جائے گی زینب بھائی سے دم صبح بچھڑ جائے گی زینب سونے دے سکینہ کو کہ پھر سو نہ سکے گی رونا بھی جو چاہے گی تو پھر رو نہ سکے گی اصغر سے ملاقات تو پھر ہو نہ سکے گی اے رات نہ ڈھلنا کہ اجڑ جائے گی زینب، گھبرائے ہوئے لال ہے سہمی ہوئی مائیں، جی بھر کے میں دے لوں علی اکبر کو دعائیں، لینا ہے ابھی اونو محمد کی بلائیں، اے رات نہ ڈھلنا کہ اجڑ جائے گی زینب، اے رات بکھر جا تیرے بس میں ہے جہاں تک، مٹ جائیں گے کل آلے پیمبر کے نشان تک، باقی ہے یہ منظر اکبر کی اذان تک، اے رات نہ ڈھلنا کہ اجڑ جائے گی زینب، باقی ہے ابھی آل محمد کا سفینہ، بیٹی کے سلانے کو ہے شبیر کا سینہ، جھولا علی اصغر کا جھلاتی ہے سکینہ، اے رات نہ ڈھلنا کہ اجڑ جائے گی زینب، کل کون سنے گا میری یہ آہو بکا بھی، ہوگا تہے خنجر میرے بھائی کا گلا بھی، خیمے تو کجا سر پہ نہ ہوگی یہ ردا بھی، اے رات نہ ڈھلنا کہ اجڑ جائے گی زینب، اے رات گھڑی بھر کو تو رہنے دے سکون سے، گر جائیں گے ناصر میرے اعداء کی صفوں میں، یہ چاند سے چہرے تو نہا جائیں گے خون میں، اے رات نہ ڈھلنا کہ اجڑ جائے گی زینب، بھائی سے دمے صبح بچھڑ جائے گی زینب، صلوات اللہ محمد وآل محمد۔
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. جزاكم الله خير. Brother
There
Shujab
is a
Bukhari.
small pursad, ایک مختصر سا, if with permission of everybody here, if I may. کربل کی کہانی جب کوئی سنائے گا، دل والوں کے آنکھوں سے ایک دریا بہائے گا، وہ قافلہ سرور کا جو شان سے نکلا تھا، وہ قافلہ سرور کا جو شان سے نکلا تھا، صغرا کو خبر کیا تھی نہ لوٹ کے آئے گا، زہرا زہرا پرسال و 72 کا، ٹوٹی ہے قمر شہ کی گھبرانا مگر اکبر، ٹوٹی ہے قمر شہ کی گھبرانا مگر اکبر، فرزند نبی تیری میت کو اٹھائے گا، زہرا زہرا اکبر کا بھی پرسالو پامال ہوئے قاسم جب گھوڑوں کی ٹاپوں سے، پامال ہوئے قاسم جب گھوڑوں کی ٹاپوں سے، کس طرح چچا تیری میت کو اٹھائے گا، زہرا زہرا قاسم کا بھی پرسالو، سرور نے اٹھائے تھے سب ساتھیوں کے لاشیں، سرور نے اٹھائے تھے سب ساتھیوں کے لاشیں، شبیر تیرا لاشا اب کون اٹھائے گا، زہرا زہرا شبیر کا پرسالو، صلوات اللہ محمد و آل محمد.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you so very much, Brother Sahel. Appreciate that. Brother Shazad Bukhari, if you can please send your condolences and recite it now. Thank you very
السلام
much.
علیکم. صلوات علی محمد و آل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. آسمان لرزا زمین کانپے سمندر روئے، آسمان لرزا زمین کانپے سمندر روئے، قبر میں ماں کے لیے جب، قبر میں ماں کے اصغر روئے آسمان لرزا زمین کانپے سمندر روئے تنہا روتی تھی 72 کو علی کی بیٹی تنہا روتی تھی 72 کو علی کی بیٹی بیردا جب ہوئی زینب بیردا جب ہوئی زینب تو 72 روئے آسمان لرزا زمین کانپے سمندر روئے ذبح ہوتے ہوئے سب دیکھ رہی تھیں بہنیں ذبح ہوتے ہوئے سب دیکھ رہی تھی بہنیں یہ سما دیکھ کے مولا یہ سما دیکھ کے مولا تہ خنجر روئے آسمان لرزا زمین کانپے سمندر روئے شمر کا خوف ہے گردن میں رسن بھی ہے بندھی شمر کا خوف ہے گردن میں رسن بھی ہے بندھی اپنے بابا کو سکینہ اپنے بابا کو سکینہ کہاں جا کر روئے آسمان لرزا زمین کانپے سمندر روئے سن کے میرے تکلم تیرا مجلس میں سلام سن کے میرے تکلم تیرا مجلس میں سلام فاطمہ روئی علی روئے فاطمہ روئی علی روئے پیغمبر روئے آسمان لرزا زمین کانپے سمندر روئے صلوات
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد جزاك الله خير كثير. And thanks to all the reciters from day one till today, and inshallah tomorrow will be the last of all the majalis. So salawat for the well-being of all the reciters, their asatid, elder members of this majalis, including Sheikh Shiraz. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And I request Sheikh Shirazi to please teach the way of Imam Hussein.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
Allah.
وصلى على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. It is the night of the Ashura, known as Tasoo'A, and it is that day when everything, in less than half a day, from the household of Wahi perished, ended. And all the Masaib that we recite all year round for Abu Abdullah and Hussein are the Masaib that unfold in these few hours of the day of Ashura. And throughout the teachings that we have from the Ma'asumeen alayhim as-salam for the importance of this day of Ashura and how to get connected with the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, especially when it comes to the Aza of Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam, we have to work hard so that the flaws or the disconnects that we have with the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, they are fixed. And all of that is possible in these days of Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam, and in particular on the day of Ashura. So whatever the flaw be, whatever we have lost, whatever we need to get on board, all of that can be sought and achieved on this day of Ashura. And once again, before we get into the topic, just that hadith that I repeated over and over again throughout these 10 days, where Imam says that Addibu awladakum ala thalasi khisal, you train, you teach, you educate your children for three things: Hubbu nabiyyikum, love of your prophet; Hubbu ahli baytih, love of his ahlul bayt; wa qira'atil Quran, and recitation of Quran. And again, in another quote that was mentioned, says that Hubbu ali Muhammadin yawman khayran min ibadati sanatin, that you love the Ahlul Bayt for one day, it equals to the worship of 1 year. That much of an effect it has. And with that love, if someone does die, وَمَنْ مَاتَ عَلَيْهِ دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ, will enter the heaven. Now, in this day and age that we are living in, with all this social media and the pompage of information being blasted over people, and then most of it is to cast doubts in the minds of people, one of the issues that is attacked quite a lot is the issue of thirst in Karbala. That is, thirst did exist, but now the propaganda is they say that thirst did not exist. This is something that the Shias, they have come up with. Now, when we look into the riwayat, for example, that talk about this thirst, we see that in this whole tragedy of Karbala, Umar Sa'ad la'natullahi alayhi, he sends Amr bin Hajjaj with a battalion, with an army of 500 horsemen. And his instructions were that from the 7th of Muharram, he seconded this army with 5,000 men, all of them horsemen. And the instructions were to stop the water getting into the camps of Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam. So for those 100, 200 people that were in the caravan of Abu Abdullah, 5,000 horsemen to stop them getting the water from the Furat. 500 horsemen at that time, and in today's war tactics, you could say that every horseman is equal to a tank nowadays. So that many ammunitions were sent against the son of Rasulullah from getting access to the water. Now here when he sends them, Abdullah bin Hasin Azdi La'natullahi alayh, he yells and screams and says that this water, such pure, such clear, like the pure and the clear sky, not a drop of that will get to you, Hussein, and that we will make sure that you die of thirst and you desire that water which will never get to you. So that was their slogan, that was their statement. So thirst starts here officially from the 7th of Muharram. Water was officially abandoned on the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. Now this water sanctions over people is something that did not exist, and it started with in the Battle of Badr by Abu Sufyan la'natullahi alayhi, where he stopped and abandoned water on Rasulullah and the Muslims with Rasulullah. So he was the first one, the pioneer of this. And then in the Battle of Siffin, it was his son Muawiyah, father of Yazid la'natullahi alayhim ajma'in, that he also abandoned and stopped water on the Muslims. And then in third, it is Yazid ibn Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, that he also abandoned water on Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam and his caravan. Now, when this is regarding the history, that it is a real issue, that instructions where water should be stopped upon them, and then the history also is such, the ancestors of Yazid, they also did that, and he also continued with the same policy. Now, when we look into the riwayat of Ma'sumin alayhim salam, we'll start with Rasulullah's quote. He says that in waladi al-Husayn yaqtulu bitaqfi Karbala ghariban wahidan atshana. Rasulullah says that indeed my son Hussein, he will be killed in Karbala. Taf is another name for Karbala. In Karbala, gharib, alienated, and atshana. Atshana means thirsty. Wahid means all alone. So he will die lonely, alienated, and thirsty. So Rasulullah also emphasized on that thirst. Now when we see the riwayat that talk about the end of time and the return of Imam al-Asr alayhi salatu wassalam, there Imam, when he returns, he will stand by the Kaaba, facing against the Kaaba. He will have 5 slogans. Now what are they? The first call that everyone will hear in his own native language, and that is the call of Imam al-Asr alayhi salam, says, Ala ya ahl al-alam ana al-imam al-qa'im. O inhabitants of the universe, I am that Imam al-Qa'im, that I am Mahdi. Second call, Ala ya ahl al-alam anna as-samsam al-muntaqim. O inhabitants of the universe, I am that avenging sword. Now the third call of the Imam, Ala ya ahl al-alam inna jaddi al-Husayn qataluhu atshana. Indeed, my grandfather Hussein was killed thirsty. This is another quote here, that is on the day when Imam returns, that will be his slogan. So he also mentions it, and atash, thirst, is a real issue which did exist in Karbala. Another evidence we have is on the day of Ashura, when Abu Abdullah al-Husayn went to fight, and then the horse returned without the rider, that without the Imam. Here's Sakina, Imam's daughter. She holds the feet of the horse and says, Ya Jawada Abi, hal suqiya Abi, am qutila atshana. O horse, my father's loyal horse, I know that my father is no more, but I want to know, hal suqiya Abi am kana atshana. That is, was his thirst quenched, or did he die of thirst? So here also, thirst is emphasis on thirst. Now here, when she asked this question from the horse, a reply is heard from the battlefront. The Imam says, Shi'ati ma in sharibtum azba ma in fazkuruni. That, oh my Shias, whenever you drink a sip of water, do remember, do remember. So here thirst existed, and then she also asked the same question, and the response that is got from the battlefront is that whenever you drink water, do remember. Do remember that I was the one who was killed of thirst and without any water, not only me, but all of my caravan. Now, this is regarding the thirst. Now, another person, he comes to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam and says that, Ibn Rasulullah, with all this emphasis you have for the night prayers and all the ajr, the fadilat, the nuraniyat, etc., says I cannot offer them and I don't want to miss out on the thawab as well. Imam says that if you can't offer all the 11 rak'at, at least offer the 2 and the 1, the shaf and the watr on time. Now the remaining 8 rak'at, you can make them qaza, do them qaza however you like. Then he says, what if I couldn't do the 2 and the 1 and I couldn't make up the 8 also as qaza? What do I do? And I don't want to miss out on the thawab of the night prayers as well. Imam says that uh, offer your Maghrib and Isha prayers in Jama'at, and before you go to bed, recite Aman al-Rasul bima unzila ilayhi min rabbih until the end of the ayah, which is the last ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah. And then Imam says, then when you sleep and then you couldn't wake up for your night prayers, and you've offered your Maghrib and Isha in Jama'at, you will get the reward of the night prayers. He says, what if I couldn't do the Maghribain in Jama'at, nor did I recite that ayah, but still I don't want to miss out on the thawab. Imam says, when you wake up in the morning, do you feel thirsty? He says, very thirsty. I feel very thirsty in the morning. Imam says, remember my grandfather Hussein, his thirst, and you will be rewarded the thawab of Salatul Layl for remembering my grandfather Hussein and his thirst. So here again, Imam mentions the concept of thirst, the issue of thirst, that it is a real issue. Now, one of the other evidences that we have, this is from Imam al-Zajjad alayhi salam, that Imam, when he comes, because our aqidah is that an Imam has to bury the successor Imam, buries the Imam who has passed away. Now here Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam is the successor of Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam, so he has to uh, perform all the funeral services. For an Imam, no one but an Imam has to conduct the funeral services, as the examples that we have. All of the Imams were as such. And here, when Imam Riza alayhi salatu wassalam passes away, his son from Medina, Imam Hadi, he comes and he offers the prayer, Imam Jawad, he offers prayers on his father's body and conducts and deals with all of the funeral services. Likewise, is Imam al-Asr alayhi salam on the pure body of Imam Askari alayhi salam, despite all the preparations, and then his uncle, he stood there to lead the prayers. Imam comes and holds his away and says, uncle, I am more deserving to lead these prayers on my father. So Imam Sajjad, when he comes to Karbala to bury the body of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and the Ashab, now the body was crushed. It wasn't a body intact. It was pounded and it was just destroyed by those Mala'in. That first of all, they shot so many arrows, and how brutally Imam was killed and then beheaded. Not even on that did they suffice. They called for the strongest of horses and the worst of men riding them to just crush these bodies under the hooves of those horses. Now every kick and of the horse is heavy, it's fatal. And then once I was reading an article which said that what is the weight of a kick of a horse which is used to crush and bound. And these horses that they had in Karbala by those Mala'in were the best of horses, strongest of them, every kick of them, so many 100 kilograms was the impact of it. Now, after the Shahadat of Abu Abdullah, when these 10 Mala'in with their horses, they come and they crush the body of Abu Abdullah, pound it under the hooves of these horses, nothing remained. No, no part of the body of Abu Abdullah was intact. Now here all these bodies got mixed up. Here it's that ilm of imamat, that knowledge of imam that has to identify what is what, whose body parts are where. Now when they did that, now they want to bury the body of imam. That is also not possible because the body is not in one piece. How can they lift it? Because for shaheed, someone who dies on the battlefront, and at that khat muqaddam, the ruling is that he has to be buried in the same clothing, in the same attire, and without any ghusl, just a salat is offered and then he is buried honorably. But Abu Abdullah al Hussein, even that kafan, the clothing that he had, that also is shattered and broken and was seized away as well. Now, Imam Sajjad, when he comes to Karbala on the 12th of Muharram to bury the pure body of Imam and the Shuhada, he, they make a grave. Now, from the tribe of Bani Asad, they requested a mat. So Imam's pure body was placed in that mat. And then Imam Sajjad alayhi salam lowers that mat in the grave and then places Ali Asghar alayhi salam on his chest, Ali Akbar alayhi salam towards his feet. And then when he closes the grave, on the grave with his finger, Imam writes, هذا قبر حسين بن علي بن أبي طالب الذي قتلوه عطشانا. This is the grave of Hussein, son of Ali, grandson of Abu Talib, who was killed atshana. Atshana means thirsty. So again, emphasis on thirst, that it did exist over there, and it is a very valid element and the integral part of Karbala. Now, when Prophet Adam alayhi salam, when he repented, now in Quran there's an ayah which says that فَتَلَقَّى آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاء, that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, he educated the good names. فَتَلَقَّى Adam min rabbihi kalimat. When Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, he gave those kalimat or the words to Prophet Adam, he didn't know what they are. What are these kalimat? Then it was said to him that the kalimat, the wordings are such, Ya Hamid, bihaqq Muhammad. Hamid means name of Allah here means the praised. Ya Hamid, bihaqq Muhammad, by Muhammad. Ya Ali, Ali means lofty. Oh, he who is so lofty, bihaqq Ali, by Ali. Ya Fatir, O Creator, bihaqq Fatima. Ya Muhsin bihaqq Hassan. Muhsin means doer of good, by Hassan alayhi salam. And then says, Waya Qadim al Ihsan bihaqq al Hussein. Qadim al Ihsan means someone who has always been a doer of good. That is, the Almighty being a Muhsin is eternal. Always he was Muhsin, and in the future also always he will remain a Muhsin. Now, Prophet Adam says, you mentioned these 5 names to me. The first 4 names, when you uttered them, I feel happy. I feel really jolly. But now when you mention the 5th name, that is, Ya Qadim al-Ihsan bihaqq al-Hussein, this name disturbed me. It made me sad. It made me burst into tears. What is the reason for that? Those 4 different, this one different. Here Jibreel says that is Hussein ibn Ali, and he reveals the qissa, the tragedy of Karbala, which is to unfold, and then Abu Abdullah Hussein to give him that sacrifice. So here also it was that evidence that it is the thirst factor that was mentioned throughout. Now when we see the riwayat again, there is one more evidence here, that is Yazid La'natullahi alayhi, when he sends his messenger to Abu Abdullah, there the instructions given to that messenger in that note, now initially it was Hur who stopped Imam, and that very moment when Hur stopped Imam, this messenger from Yazid la'natullahi alayhi reaches, and then when he opens up that note, says, فَجَعْجَعْ بِالْحُسَيْنِ, that is, be tough on Hussein. حين يبلغك كتابي هذا, when you get this note, be tough on him. وَيَقْدِمُ عَلَيْكَ رَسُولِي, and then when the messenger comes to you, وَلَا تَنْزِلْهُ إِلَّا بِالْعَرَى, says Yazid that Hussein must not settle down in a good place. He has to settle down in a desert, in a barren desert, with no green, with no water, and وَعَلَى غَيْرِ مَا, no water should be given to him. So, third, when he being the ruler there, and he is commanding no water, means no one can listen to him. Everyone says no water. So instructions of Yazid were that no water be given. So when there's no water, then there's thirst. But now they say that the thirst also didn't exist. So neither did they do anything, nor this thirst existed. So all these are this propaganda which existed even then, and it's way severe now. So Quran also has a test which has been mentioned in Surah Baqarah, says that Talut and Jalut, the story you've heard, فَلَمَّا فَصَلَ طَالُوتُ بِالْجُنُودِ قَالَ, then is when Talut and his troops set out, Allah said that we have to test you. And how do we want to test you? Says we'll test you مُبْتَلِيكُمْ بِالنَّهَرِ. Nahar means a stream, the river. Says we are going to test you with the river. What is the test? Says that you being the army of Talut, when you come by the river and you are thirsty, you are not allowed to drink water there. If you drink, then you are not from me. You are my opposition. And if you do need to drink and you are thirsty, says a sip or two sips, and that also with your palm. That is, you take that water, one sip, and then another sip, and that's it, not more than that. So whosoever drinks water from his hand, a little bit, one or two sips, here Allah says they are with me. Those who drank water more than what was allowed to them, they are not from among me. So here, another test which Allah mentions in the Quran is the mention of the thirst. That is, a person has to go through thirst to get to that test, to pass the test for the Almighty Allah to bestow further blessings upon him. In the books of hadith that we have a chapter, it's called Ibradu Kabidin Harra, which means that quenching thirst. Now, the literal translation of Ibradu Kabidin Harra, then cooling a liver which is in flares, which is hot. That is, a person is thirsty. When you give him water, he cools down, he settles down. That is the chapter called, that is cooling down the liver that is hot. Now, here Rasulullah says that لِكُلِّ كَبِدٍ حَرَّ أَجْرٌ. Says every liver that is thirsty, or every person who is thirsty, he has a right. You have to give water to him. You have to provide water to him. Says water is the right of every person. With this water is life. So you cannot put sanctions on water. You cannot abandon water from anyone. Now, hadith say that even if it was time for prayers, you had little water, you could have performed your wuzu and done your prayers, but there is an animal beside you who's thirsty. And if you perform your wuzu and there is no other water to be given to that animal, so you are liable for the death of that animal. So here says that your prayers also will be batil if you perform wuzu and then you say your prayers yourself. Once there is a need to save someone, that water be given. So that is that, and says that if you don't find any way out to get your sins forgiven, Rasulullah says, إِذَا كَسُّرَتْ ذُنُوبُكَ فَاسْقِ الْمَاءَ عَلَى الْمَاءِ. Says if you see that there are so many sins and you don't know how to get them forgiven by Allah, says you provide water. Provide water to whoever you want. Giving that water will shed the wrong that we have done, the sins that we have on our system. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in the Riwayat Imam Sadiq says that yuhibbu ibrad al-kabid al-harra, says someone who provides water, Allah loves him. وَمَنْ سَقَى كَبِدًا حَرًّا مِنْ بَهِيمَةٍ أَوْ غَيْرِهَا أَظَلَّهُ اللَّهُ يَوْمًا لَا ظِلَّ إِلَّا ظِلَّهُ. Says if someone does provide this cold water to another fellow person, or if he provides that even to a bahaim, means to an animal, says Allah will shade him and shelter him on the day when there will be no shade nor shelter. He will be under the special shelters and shades of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala on that day when there is no shelter. So providing water to someone thirsty. So thirst was available there. Everyone was thirsty. Water also was abandoned. From the seventh day, it was officially abandoned. And then Allah also tests with this thirst. So thirst is there. Assalamu alayk, ya Aba Abdullah. One day, Hazrat Fatima, Salamullahi alayha, she comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. And she was crying. Rasulullah says, Fatima, what is the mean? Why are you upset? Why are you crying? She says that I'm pregnant, Dad, Father. Rasulullah says, if you are pregnant, pregnancy is good. You should be happy. Why cry? Were you not pregnant with Hassan? Now this is another child Allah has given to you. She says that I know pregnancy is good and I'm not complaining there. The reason why I cry is that this baby in my womb all day today, he has been saying, Anal Gharib, I am that Gharib, I am that alienated. And then the next day she comes, the first day she says, this, the baby was saying, Ana Shaheed, I am that martyr. The second day she was crying much more and says, what happened now, Zahra? Says he's saying, Anal Gharib. The third day she comes in flares, much more than the first 2 days, says this baby today was saying, Anal Uryan. Anal Uryan means someone who was uncovered. Now, Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam, among the mazalim that happened upon him is that these mala'in, after beheading him, they did not even leave the body as such. One of the mal'uns, he comes to take away the ring and the ring wouldn't come out of his hand. He amputates the finger to get to the ring. Or likewise, the shirt that was the Imam was wearing, that was also seized away. Everything that Imam had on him was stolen or taken away by those mala'in. And then on the fourth day, she comes and says that, Father, today, he just broke my heart. He's been saying all day that Anal Atshan, Anal Atshan, Anal Atshan. I am that thirsty, I am that thirsty, and I am that thirsty. So here, Rasulullah, Hazrat Fatima, Amirul Mu'mineen, they all sit and cry, and Rasulullah reveals the tragedy of Karbala to everyone there. And then when everyone was crying, Jibreel descended and said that Ya Allah has sent his salam to you, and he sent this gift, which is Ziyarat Ashura. So Ziyarat Ashura is also a word of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, like those ahadith Qudsiyya that are the sisters of Quran and Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala's word they are. So here says that this is this hadith al-Qudsi that Ziyarat Ashura was given and sent to Rasulullah and Amir al-Mu'mineen to be recited. Now Ziyarat Ashura is very important. Marhum Atullah Qazi says that he was seen after his wafat. And he says that, do you want to, Ayatollah Bahjat reports this, do you want to return to this dunya? He says, yes, I do want to. Now he was asked that, why do you want to return to this dunya? He says that, so that I could come and recite Ziyarat Ashura more. I recited just once throughout my life, but now when I come here, I see that I should have done 2 or 3 times daily because of the benefit and the sawab and ajr and how the payback of reciting the Ziyarat Ashura is with Allah Ta'ala. Assalamu alayk ya Aba Abdullah. Now, the tragedy that took place in Karbala, there's a book called, yeah, Kamil al-Ziyarat. And in this book, Kamil al-Ziyarat, the author, Ibn Qawlawayh Qummi, he reports this hadith. Now, it is our aqidah, and the ayat of Quran also have mentioned that we believe in the day of judgment, the day of resurrection, when everything that Allah has created in this world now will cease to exist. Will cease to exist. Now, the sun, the moon that we have, it will all shatter and break. إذا الشمس كبرت وإذا النجوم انكدرت وإذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها. You would see that this earth, it will shake, and such a shaking. And then وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها. You would see that the earth has just thrown away everything in it. Man will be amazed and astonished and would say, ما لها, what has happened to this earth? So that is the day of judgment. So this tremor and shaking will be seen and felt and witnessed by everyone in this creation of Allah. Says everything will shake, exception is the land of Karbala. That will not shake. And says, do you know why will that land of Karbala not shake? Because it hasn't got the capacity to shake anymore. So even that land of Karbala, it has already seen that shaking. When was that? Says that shaking was witnessed and seen by this land of Karbala on the day of Ashura. That is, says that on 3 occasions the land of Karbala, it shook. First, it is when Abu Abdullah al-Husayn falls from his horse. Says the land of Karbala, it shook. The second, when Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, his head was raised high on that javelin, the land of Karbala, it shook. And on the third occasion, when Zainab al-Kubra, she, without any footwear, she rushes to get the body of Ali Akbar alayhi salam, says the land of Karbala, it shook. It hasn't got the capacity to further shake anymore. And then we see that there is, inshallah, if I could, in the forthcoming nights, we'll talk about these different stops and stations. About 20 of them were there from the day of Ashura until the pure head of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. It traveled. So the body was in Karbala, was buried by Imam al-Sajjad on the 12th of Muharram, but the head was being taken from town to town, from place to place, with all that disrespect in all these days. So now this head, about 20 or 22 transits it had in different locations that it went through until it reached Sham. Now, on numerous occasions, miracles were seen by this noble head of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam. On an occasion when that Mal'un Yazid, he hosts a celebration, and he invites all the dignitaries, all the foreign ambassadors in Sham, and among those foreign ambassadors is the ambassador of Rome. He also comes there. And it's a very lavish celebration. Now the ambassador, he says, okay, Yazid, you've invited us to this feast, to this celebration. What is this celebration for? If you could tell me. Yazid says that you just be part of this celebration and you don't need to know what the celebration is for. Because he knew that if he opens up this topic, it's going to be not nice on him. So he says, be part of the celebration and enjoy, and you don't need to know. He says, the ambassador, I have to know because I have to report to the Roman emperor. Where did I go? All meetings that I participate and gatherings that I attend. And if it is such an important festival that you have invited me to be part of your celebration, then this is an important piece of news that I have to inform my emperor that I participated in such a celebration. Now, Yazid then says that, you see this head here? Says, yes. Says, whose head is that? Says, this is the head of Hussein. Hussein, son of Ali. Immediately the ambassador says that you killed the son of your prophet's daughter and you celebrate. Shame on you. What kind of a ruler are you? What kind of a deen you have? And then he says that I am the 70th descendant of Prophet Dawood. And in Rome, when I walk in the streets, people of Rome, they come to get the dust of my feet as mark of respect and tabarruk. And you killed the son of your prophet's daughter, where the generation gap is just one person, one lady. And I being the 70th, this is the respect that's given to me. And there was this heated talk between the two. Yazid says, take him, arrest him, behead him. Then he says, I have one wish. Yazid says, what is your wish? Says that allow me to kiss this noble head. He says, okay, allowed. And then he says, I wonder why this morning I had a dream and I saw the Prophet of Islam in my dream. And I woke up and I interpreted, worried that why did I see the Prophet of Islam in my dream? I being a Christian, I should see Jesus, Prophet Isa alayhi salam. Why Prophet of Islam? Says this was the reason that this celebration, the head of his grandson will be there, who will be a means of guidance for me. Picks the head of Abu Abdullah, says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Kisses the head, and he also is beheaded. So this head of Abu Abdullah had all these miraculous guidances all the way through. And everyone, wherever Abu Abdullah went, may that be during his life or when it was the head of Abu Abdullah that was taken from town to town. One of the other painful incidents that we see with this noble head of Sayyid al-Shuhada is in the meeting of the same meeting of this Yazid la'natullahi alayh. He disrespected the head. He poured wine on the head, and he had a little stick on in his hand, just like these devices that we have nowadays, mobile phones everyone has in his hand. When you go to the Arab world, they have a tasbih, a sabha in the hand, or they may not be reciting anything, but the tasbih is there in the hand, something, a tool. So like that, in those days, the Arabs, they had a little stick in their hand all the time. So this Yazid Mal'un, he had that stick in his hand, Khayzaran, that is the wood name. And with that stick, he was hitting the pure head of Abu Abdullah, the teeth of Abu Abdullah, the lips of Abu Abdullah. And in this meeting, there Zainab Kubra is present, Rabab, Imam's wife, is present, and all the ladies are there. Imam Sajjad is there. And all of a sudden, when she saw Rabab, Imam's wife, in the Asghar's mother, when she saw that he's disrespecting the head so much, she rushes there, takes the head, picks the head up, hugs it, and starts kissing it. And then those Mala'in, they come and lash her. Zainab Kubra says, why did you do that? Why did you do that? You know that these people are cruel. These people, they torture. These people are merciless. They have no mercy on us. Why did you have to go? She says that I couldn't resist to see that how much of a disrespect to this pure head of Abu Abdullah onto the lips and onto the teeth. And when you see the seerah of Rasulullah, whenever he used to see Abu Abdullah and Hussein, he used to kiss the forehead of Abu Abdullah. He used to kiss the lips and the neck of Abu Abdullah. Now that forehead, stones were thrown on it. That lip of Abu Abdullah and the neck is that where the Mal'un was hitting it with it on the lips, and then the neck also was where Shimr al-La'in la'natullahi alayhi beheaded and slaughtered Abu Abdullah. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إلهي بحق الزهراء وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها والسر المستودع فيها يا الله 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 يا Allah. Ilahi, by these tears that were shed, in love and in sorrow of Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam. Make them an asset of ours in our graves, in our barzakh, and in our qiyamah. Ilahi, all those who are misled, misguided, Allah, by these tears of Abu Abdullah and Hussein, put them back on track and count them among the best of your servants. Our children to be enlisted among the best of Muslims. Ya Allah, all those who are ill and ailing, especially in this room here, and all those who have requested for du'as, Ilahi, بحق أبا عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام, grant them complete shifa. Ilahi, all those who have departed, especially our loved ones, our ancestors, our parents, Allah forgive them, Allah grant them the best of ranks and stations in your mercy, in your maghfirah. And Allah count them among the best of servants of Sayyid al-Shuhada, inshaAllah. Ilahi, hasten in the return of our Imam, our Master, our Hujjah. Islam and Muslimin, grant them honor and victory. Kufr and shirk and nifaq, wheresoever they be, Allah ruin them, remove them from the surface of this earth. وعجل في فرج مولانا صاحب الزمان ماتم حسين.
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. آرزوی دل من، محرم درد دل من، ای غریب زهرا، جان علی خون خدا. آرزوی دل من، محرم درد دل من، ای غریب زهرا، جان علی خون خدا. تو نہیں ہے تو میرا کوئی دنیا میں نہیں، تیرے ماتم کے سوا کوئی بھی ارمان نہیں. حیا علی اللذا، حیا علی البکا، فی ماتم الحسین مظلوم کربلا. حیا علی اللذا، حیا علی البکا، فی ماتم الحسین مظلوم کربلا. کربلای تو قبله دلم، ارباب من، آقای من. آرزوی دل من، محرم درد دل من، ای غریب زهرا، جان علی خون خدا. آرزوی دل من، محرم درد دل من، ای غریب زهرا، جان علی خون خدا. میرا انجام ہے تو، میرا آغاز ہے تو، ہے تجھے میری خبر، میرا ہمراز ہے تو. میں ہوں دیوانہ تیرا، میری آواز ہے تو، تیرے ماتم کے سوا کوئی بھی ارمان نہیں. حیا علی اللذا، حیا علی البکا، فی ماتم الحسین مظلوم کربلا. کربلای تو قبله دلم، ارباب من، آقای من. آرزوی دل من، محرم درد دل من، ای غریب زهرا، جان علی خون خدا آرزوی دل من محرم درد دل من اے غریب زہرا جان علی خون خدا زینب خستہ جگر تھی جو پابند رسن چھن گئی اس کی ردا تو نے پایا نہ کفن بہن یہ کرتی رہی لاش پر تیری بہن تیرے ماتم کے سوا کوئی بھی ارمان نہیں حیا علی اللذا حیا علی البکا فی ماتم الحسین مظلوم کربلا کربلائے تو قبلہ دلم ارباب من آقای من آرزوی دل من محرم درد دل من اے غریب زہرا جان علی خون خدا آرزوی دل من محرم درد دل من اے غریب زہرا جان علی خون خدا ہے تکلم کی دعا مالک کون و مکان جس کی آنکھوں سے صدا خو ہے غیبت میں رواں آ کے درویش وہ دے سہنے کعبہ میں اذان حیا علی اللذا حیا علی البکا فی ماتم الحسین مظلوم کربلا حیا علی اللذا حیا علی البکا فی ماتم الحسین مظلوم کربلا من برای تو گریه می کنم تو برای من آقای من آرزوی دل من محرم درد دل من اے غریب زہرا جان علی خون خدا یا حسین
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین عباس تیرا حق ہے زمانہ تجھے روئے عباس تیرا حق ہے زمانہ روئے جب شام و سحر فاطمہ زہرا تجھے روئے عباس تیرا حق ہے زمانہ تجھے روئے عباس تیرا حق ہے زمانہ تجھے روئے دلالی کے پہرے پہ ستمگار کھڑا ہے دلالی کے پہرے پہ ستمگار کھڑا ہے کیسے تیرے لاشے پہ سکینہ تجھے روئے کیسے تیرے لاشے پہ سکینہ تجھے روئے عباس تیرا حق ہے زمانہ تجھے روئے عباس تیرا حق ہے زمانہ تجھے روئے جس وقت اٹھایا نہ گیا لاشا جمع کا جس وقت اٹھایا نہ گیا لاشا جمع کا شے اس گھڑی اکبر سے زیادہ تجھے روئے شے اس گھڑی اکبر سے زیادہ تجھے روئے عباس تیرا حق ہے زمانہ تجھے روئے عباس تیرا حق ہے زمانہ تجھے روئے سجدے کے لیے جب لیا ہاتھوں کا سہارا سجدے کے لیے جب لیا ہاتھوں کا سہارا سجاد مصلی پہ ہمیشہ تجھے روئے سجاد مصلی پہ ہمیشہ تجھے روئے بس تیرا حق ہے زمانہ تجھے روئے عباس تیرا حق ہے زمانہ تجھے روئے مشکی سا کہیں جسم کہیں ہاتھ کہیں ہے مشکی سا کہیں جسم کہیں ہاتھ کہیں ہے جا جا کے کہاں فاطمہ زہرا تجھے روئے جا جا کے کہاں فاطمہ زہرا تجھے روئے عباس تیرا حق ہے زمانہ تجھے روئے عباس تیرا حق ہے زمانہ تجھے روئے یا حسین یا حسین
یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین مر گیا تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر مر گیا تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر گیا تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر سوئے مقتل جو شاہ کا لال چلا آئی خیمے سے کان میں یہ صدا مر گیا تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر مر گیا تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر تو نہ ہوگا تو کون بولے گا میرے ہاتھوں کو کون کھولے گا جب ستائیں گی رسیاں اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر مر گیا تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر کیا اسی دن کے واسطے بیٹا تجھ کو 18 سال پالا تھا یوں نہ لے میرا امتحان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر مر گیا تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر تیرا سینہ فگار دیکھوں گی خون میں ڈوبی بہار دیکھوں گی کیا مٹے گا میرا نشان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی ہاں اکبر مر گیا تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر کیا اسی دن کے واسطے بیٹا تجھ کو 18 سال پالا تھا یوں نہ لے میرا امتحان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر مر گیا تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر 14ویں شب کے مہتاب کی ماں آئیے عالم شباب کی ماں تجھ کو روئے گا ایک جہان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر مر گیا تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائی کہاں اکبر تیرا سینہ فگار دیکھوں گی خون میں ڈوبی بہار دیکھوں گی کیا مٹے گا میرا نشان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر گیا تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر یوں نہ بچھڑے کسی کا لال جواں یہ جو آواز آ رہی ہے یہاں ہے تیری ماں کی سسکیاں اکبر تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر یوں نہ بچھڑے کسی کا لال جواں یہ جو آواز آ رہی ہے یہاں ہے تیری ماں کی سسکیاں اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر گیا تو جو میری جان اکبر ماں تجھے پائے گی کہاں اکبر حسین کیا حسین کیا حسین کیا حسین
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. متوجه زيارة.
السلام عليك يا نبي الله السلام عليك يا خير خلق الله السلام عليكم وعلى أهل بيتكم الطيبين الطاهرين السلام عليك يا علي أمير المؤمنين السلام على الصديقة الطاهرة السلام على الحسن والحسين وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات الفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد. Inshallah, the Ashur program will be, it's going to be about 13 hours from now, 14 hours from now. And 10 a.m. our time will start with the Ziyarat Ashura. And at 11 a.m. our time, we'll recite the Maqtal of Abu Abdullah Hussein alayhi salam, which is the entire incident report of the day of Ashura that has been reported by all of these different reporters. May Allah accept the Qabul and Hasan from every one of us. Thank you. Iltimas dua. Khuda Hafiz.